Welcome to Homeschool Team Talk. I'm Barb Vitamin.
And I'm Rick Vitamin.
And we're here to give you the second part of our three-part series on Homeschooling Middle School. So thank you for joining us today. We're going to start out with the topic of record keeping. So record keeping in middle school is not quite as important as it is in high school, but it still has a place. First of all, you're going to want to think about a plan for what you might want to do for record keeping in high school when your child is in middle school, so that by the time they reach ninth grade, you'll have things figured out, at least as far as the type of transcript that you want to start using and how you're going to keep track of different things like volunteer opportunities, grades, honors, and activities that your child participates in. So it's just really helpful to have those things set up before they get to high school. It might be useful to look at some sample transcripts before you make a final decision about how you're going to keep track of those things. I used a transcript that I found through a speaker that I heard at a conference. And so I'll put a link to this transcript in the description of this video. I'm just showing it here to show you that your transcript really only needs to be one page. And what it needs to mainly contain are the course names and the grades. So that's another thing you're going to need to think about, is what you're going to do as far as grading for high school. And some of those things you might even want to put into place in middle school. Our children started taking community college classes in 8th grade and 9th grade, and they needed to have a transcript for the community college. So I needed to come up with a plan for how to do that before they actually started those community college classes. And that was just part of the registration process to make sure you turned in a transcript. So that transcript had grades on it from 7th grade or from 8th grade. And eventually, as they got older and moved on into high school, I took those grades and those courses off the transcript for the most part, and then just included their courses for 9th through 12th grade. For my older son, he did do some classes in 8th grade at community college, and he also took some AP tests. So I did include that information on the transcript, and that was one of the reasons that I chose this transcript form, was because it had a section for courses taken prior to high school that were high school level courses. And that was helpful for his transcript in particular.
In fact, one of the courses that he took in middle school, he was able to get college credit for because he had the AP test that went along with it.
Actually, that was 2 of the courses that he took in middle school. So anyway, it's just good to decide what you're going to do to keep track of those records. I would suggest, at the very least, having a file folder that you can use to place any honor certificates or anything from activities that your child's participated in those folders, and then at least you'll have all of the paperwork together ahead of time. And you might also want to start keeping track of volunteer hours, because that's something that's useful when you're filling out college applications and scholarship applications as they head towards the end of their high school years. And sometimes if there's something that they've been volunteering for since middle school, you might want to include those hours along with the high school hours if it was the same activity, because you might be saying they started this 6 years earlier. So it's helpful to have those records and be able to use those when you need them. And you also want to involve your child in those discussions. Your child will eventually need to take ownership of their transcript and their resume. Your child is the one that's going to be speaking to people who are doing interviews for colleges and things like that. And so you want your child to understand their transcript and understand all of the honors and activities and things like that that you're keeping track of. So you may even decide to hand those things over to your child as they approach the end of their high school years, and let them make sure that it's in a format that they like. And also remember that when you do a transcript as a homeschooler, it's not necessarily a stagnant kind of document. You may need to make changes as you go along, and that's okay.
The next topic is independence and responsibility, particularly in terms of decision making. And some of the things that fits under is giving your kids more say into what subjects they take, the methods in which you teach those subjects, maybe even the time frame in which you do them. Our older son was particularly interested in like maybe working on a particular subject for a whole day and then doing a different subject on another day instead of the typical breaking a day up into different subjects. So giving them flexibility to do that as they show responsibility. Another area that can be helpful is in the actual materials that are used. So for instance, during middle school you're going to have a course where they're going to have to read some books. Chances are that they're going to be more interested if they have some say into what those books are. Now it might be that you provide them with a list, or maybe you use something like the books that are recommended in the Sunlight curriculum, for instance, and you say, here's a list of books, pick out 10 of them, or however many you want. And the fact that they get to choose can make them empowered and enjoy it more.
Right. And I would add to that, be sure that you ask them questions and you listen to their answers. Let them have genuine input into what kinds of things they're involved in, even in middle school. You can ask them about where they'd like to go on field trips and what they'd like to do with free time or family time. If they're responsible, let them continue to make more decisions. If they're not responsible, then you might need to make those decisions for them for a little while. But I think it's important to help them to see that their level of maturity and their wise decision making will enable you to give them greater independence, and they'll have more choices and more input into the decisions that need to be made. And hopefully that's going to encourage them to grow and mature, because they'll enjoy having that kind of independence and that input into their education and into life.
And the final topic for this video is to make time for fun. Now that can be making sure they have time to do things that they enjoy. It can be things that you're doing together. So field trips aren't just for elementary school. Field trips are something that you should continue to do either with a homeschool support group or on your own. Don't give up on that. Continue reading to and with your kids. But also, when you get a snowy day, like we have today in April, you can go out and go sledding or do things in the snow together. Also, take interest in the things that your kids are interested in, as well as maybe trying to get them interested in the things you're interested in. So my younger son and I have done a number of activities together related to Lego, because he really, really loves Lego, and a lot more than I do, but we do it together because that's his interest.
Great. And I just want to emphasize that you should really enjoy this time with your child, because life is just going to get busier and busier as they approach high school and get into high school and have more activities and things that they're doing and responsibilities that they have. And when they graduate, you're not going to regret the fun times that you had in middle school. Those are going to be great memories for you and for your child. So be sure to look for those opportunities to have fun together, in your homeschooling day or in your free time on your weekends. Continue to build that strong relationship with your child, and that'll be a blessing to you throughout your homeschooling and beyond. Thanks for taking time to listen to what we had to say today, and I hope it was an encouragement to you.
And we hope to see you in our third and final video in this series.